Hello and welcome back to the channel. Now it's about time I figured out what's going on with my Volvo 480. There's been a bit of progress since the last videos. Actually, I'm not really sure where I'm up to. So let's go and take a look where I'm at. I'll show you a few things that I've done, a few things I haven't done, and show you where I think I might have broken things. So whereabouts are we with the Volvo 480? Well, most of the bodywork is back together. Actually, I'm quite happy with the bodywork. I think I did mention this needs sorting out. The brakes need bled and sorting out. Something that I have been really busy on, and I managed to get finished since the last video, is the fuel filter. Now, I haven't tacked it up and into place yet. I think it's going to be cable ties holding it in, but you will see a rather elegant piece of pipe work, all nicely barbed and fastened, and you can see that's our lovely new fuel filter in place. That needs testing, making sure it's all nice and secure. You can see what I've done is we've got these screw fittings on these pieces, which are the bit that I'll need to take off in future to change the fuel filter. The rest of it are all crimp clamp fittings, so that is all good. Really pleased with the work on that. Like I say, we need to test it, so we'll test that shortly. Underneath, what else have I been doing? Working on the exhaust system, because last time I had it running there was quite a big blow in the exhaust from that junction up there. What I've done is I've taken out a little union joint that was in there and tightened it back up again. That hopefully will stop the noisy exhaust, because we shouldn't have a noisy exhaust in this car, I don't think. So that's what I've been doing there. And then on to the electrical issues, because if you remember a couple of videos ago, I'll put a link to the video down the bottom, I was playing about with the electrics and making the sunroof and the windows work, and it's now dawned on me that since that's when the indicators stopped working, and the windows and the sunroof, and it's gone a bit weird. And I've looked through all of the wiring diagrams, the documents, things like that. I've asked around on the forums and people that know these cars inside and out, and well, the summary is that they think I've damaged the car ECU. Now remember, this has got two ECUs in it. It's got one which is for the injection engine. That is separate to effectively the body control module. It's called the CEM in these Volvos, Central Electrical Module. And the general thinking is something's gone wrong in that and it's given up, which is a bit of a shame. Let's climb inside the car. You can see the rear is still not back together, and the front is even in more bits at the moment. But if I can get inside, because it is very windy here in the UK at the minute. Climb inside. Oh, hide that, because that is off another project on the channel, so keep an eye out. So what have we got? We have got the CEM that lives down there. Now you probably saw in a previous video me playing about with the CEM, testing a few pins and things, and it's all down to the double indicators work, but the individual turn signals don't, and it all appears to be that as the culprit. So I was asking someone that was braking another 480 for one of these, which is a door stay for the driver's door. If you remember, that's smashed to bits. Now whether I can actually put that on, because I think part of the door's metalwork is damaged, that might be a job of taking the door off welding a new panel and then putting the door stay on. But anyway, I also asked, I don't suppose you have a spare CEM, and he did. And so I've bought these two CEMs, these two parts. I haven't looked inside this CEM. I'm hoping that it's going to be in good condition, and what we can do is swap it out and test the indicators. And this time I'm not going to try the sunroof and the electric windows, because clearly something overloads, or there's some sort of hidden problem that's causing them to fail. Okay, and here we have our CEM, which I have shown you on the previous video, and this one looks in perfect condition actually. I mean, the thing is, mine doesn't look in bad condition, but it wouldn't take much for one of these chips to fry. So I'm going to put this back in its case, disconnect the battery, connect this up, and let's see what we get. That's the new CEM in place. Let's connect the battery back up and see what we get from the ignition. Okay, so that's the replacement CEM in place. I've tried the door locks, they work, the central locking. Remember, these aren't modern CEMs. This is a 1994 car, so they don't need programming or anything like that. I mean, if I was having to do that on, say, my Volvo XC60, that would be a world of pain, because I would need Volvo Vida to program them, and that would be horrendous. Right, let's just see what we get, shall we? Do the double indicators still work? Now I think so, because I think this bypasses the CEM, and yeah, it's just almost a direct loop, that one. Let's turn the ignition on and see what dash lights we get come on. Ah, now that's different. That wasn't there before, the seatbelt warning light. I wondered where that had gone. We've also got a door open warning. That wasn't on before. That looks quite hopeful. I like the look of that. Let's try the right indicator. We've got an indicator. We've got a left indicator. I'm very happy, but at the same time very nervous. What that means is my old CEM has died somehow. The problem being, the way it died was by running the sunroof or the windows or something else. I don't want to blow another CEM up. That's the problem. And I don't think it's going to be very easy tracing the circuitry on this old CEM. I might give that a go, because I did have a lot of the wiring diagrams and working out which part of the CEM was giving a problem. And it's a lot it's a lot simpler than a modern one. It doesn't really have a computer, it's just got some basic chips. But even so, that may be problematic. It would be great if I could have a spare CEM, because then I wouldn't mind putting it back in again and working out what actually went wrong. But in the meantime, don't think I'll use the windows. The next job then, since I've got the dashboard apart, by the way, the radio's working again. I found there was just a loose connector at the back, and actually the electric aerial even works, which is amazing. I do need a code for this radio, so anyone that knows how to get the code for a Volvo VC602 Secura code radio, drop me a message down the bottom. Would really appreciate that. Little things, you know, radio code. I mean, it's not like the car runs or anything at the minute, but little by little we can fix things. Speaking of which, the next thing to solve, since I've got the dashboard apart, is the smart dash, and this is the info center on it. Now if I turn the ignition on, you'll see it's not actually doing anything. That should be an LCD display showing me information about the car, also the fuel level, and in fact any of it should be lighting up, and it's not. Now that's quite common. The tracers go bad. It's all on the back of the instrument cluster. So I think what we do is we take the instrument cluster out and we try and solve that on the bench. And here it is, back removed. Now you remember from some early videos in the channel, I have actually done this once already, so annoyingly having to do it again. If you remember, I had to replace the speedo itself because it was flaking apart. But now we've got it out, we can go across and take a look. Now I know that it's two-sided, so I think the illumination on it has failed, so we're probably going to need some more of these little bulbs. I think it's going to be worth checking all of the bulbs in it, because I really just want to solve this for once and for all before it goes back together. I think we're going to need to take it all apart. I think that's a job for inside. Here it is, broken down into its component parts. You take each section off. The first one is the back cover, which reveals a rather worrying amount of electronics. This, I think, is the main brain for the info centre, and you can see it's very old school electronics in there. Looks like we do have a bit of corrosion on the board. The capacitors look okay. I'm hoping that's okay. I'm hoping that isn't the problem, because trying to trace and diagnose that may be somewhat tricky. So I'm going to put that one to one side for now. And then you take this off, which is the rear board that we saw earlier. Again, a little bit of corrosion, but not looking too bad. Looks like, yeah, there's a little bit of solder work gone on here. I think we're just reflowing, and what happens is these little sockets here, pins push through from the gauges. So you've got the rev counter, which is those ones there. And then you've got this, which is the info centre, which push through onto those. So only 5, so it must be like a multiplex or a digital signal coming through to the actual unit, which is in 2 parts. There's kind of these parts here, which I think are just LED bars, as is the fuel gauge, and then there's this, which is an LCD display. Going around to the back, there's not a lot on here, so I think this is fairly basic when it comes down to it. I don't think there's a lot of intelligence in here, literally just the digital display and the LED display. Now I would expect the LEDs to work and possibly the LCD not, but none of it lights up. So whether there's an illumination problem, now looking, it's just passive illumination through from the main bulbs, and those ones, let me just take a look. You can actually see where it's burnt out in the past. So it takes it from 2 places, looks like there and there, and translating that onto the board. Now that one has failed, I know that. That bulb was fine. Whether it lights up or not, I'm not sure. That might be the first thing to check, and then maybe take a look inside here. Well, that at least proves that those 2 are working, so I don't think it's down to bulb illumination that's the problem. Now, whilst I'm working on the dashboard, I thought, because I've done the fuel filter, that's all tightened up and fastened into place, I'm going to plug the connector back into it, turn the ignition on, which should prime and make sure that all of those fittings are good. So I'll just go back here. You can see what I've done. All I've done is I took the electrical connector off, so it wasn't running whilst I've been doing my various tests. So let me just get that lined up. Goes on that way around. I've got to admit, it is quite nice. All the connectors are all keyed, so it does make it quite straightforward. That's in place now. So I should be able to turn the ignition on and we won't get any leaks, will we? Because this has been a lot of work getting this far. When I turn it on, I'll hear the fuel pump kick in. I should hear the fuel pump kick in, which it hasn't done. I'm guessing the connector mustn't be on properly. Let's just try that again. Let's try the fuel pump. I can't hear the fuel pump coming on. Actually, the fuel pump did kick in. It's just so noisy and windy today. I couldn't hear it, but it did actually come on. Now I'm thinking what I'm going to do is try and start the car up. And that'll really make sure that the fuel's going through. Let's give it a go. Let's see if it'll turn over and whether we'll get fuel coming through. And hopefully the fuel fix isn't going to give out on us. Yep, I heard the pump there. It's trying. Let's go again. Right, I'm just going to check now, because I can't tell when I'm in the car. Well, there's no leaks, which is good. Kind of tricky doing this, balancing everything at the same time, but I'll give it a go so you can watch what I'm watching. Let's give this a try. Now I'm going to guess that's because we're still trying to get fuel through that we're cutting out. And I think, yep, my battery's now given out. Let's get the battery on charge. Whilst waiting for the battery charger to charge the battery up, I thought I'd tackle the front lights. Popped up the front lights, need a bit of cleaning actually. Could do with cleaning those out a little bit, get rid of the green. And you'll see I've taken off the indicator and what we now call the daylight running lights off. If you remember, I broke the one on the far side, the lens, and I've got a replacement for that. That needs glued into place. I'm also taking the chance of renewing the bulbs, because you can see the indicator there, the orange is peeling off it, and also changing the DRLs to these LED units, because they'll also run a lot cooler. And that's the problem with these, with them being on all the time. You can see what happens. They kind of go through a heat cycle and they become very brittle. And unfortunately this is the one that I smashed. But what that means is I can turn the light switch on if we go around, and our LED replacement is working nicely in there. That's good. I've taken them both out. They both need cleaning up on the bench really. I'm not sure about this one. Let me show you it. Here they both are on the bench. Here's my replacement lens, which looks great. And you can see this one here. Now, it's kind of a bit more opaque if I put them side by side. The camera doesn't really show it very much, but this one is a bit more opaque. I'm not sure if I'm going to get away with that. I'm not sure if that is going to be a problem. I might need to source a replacement. Unfortunately, light replacements for this car are very expensive. The lenses, that is. The rest of them are fine at being very, very careful with them. And I think I'm going to just keep them on the bench here until the new bulbs arrive. I've ordered another couple of bulbs to go in, another LED bulb, just to get those finished off before I put them back on. No point in putting them on and off and potentially stressing the plastic any more than it needs to be. That one I'm not sure. Battery's been topped up a bit. You can hear the fuel pump going, which is good news. Let's try starting her up again. Definitely fuel starvation problem. And I'm guessing this is just whilst we try and get some fuel through it. Cycle that a couple of times. Come on, let's get the fuel through. Come on, come on. There we go. It sounds like we've actually helped our exhaust leak. That's sounding a bit better. Oh god. Nasty rattle going on at low revs there. ABS light is on. Yeah, I'm not quite sure what that rattle is. Bit of a harmonic or something going through the car, which doesn't sound ideal. But we are running. Let's go take a little look and make sure we've got no fuel leaks. Bone dry, which is great news. Oh, I know what the noise and the rattle is. It's the exhaust. The exhaust looked like it's hitting off the chassis, and that will be the rattle that we're getting. Need to work out. I'm not quite sure why, but this aftermarket exhaust, it doesn't quite look the right size, because you can see that's very, very close on this side. It actually touches on the far side, almost as though the exhaust needs a little bit of a different kind of layout on here, because you can see that's where the bulkhead is. A little bit more of this section to move it forward, or it's just not quite sitting right, is it? I might need to try and reorientate the exhaust a little bit to solve that, but I think that's what that nasty harmonic will be. Idling nicely. There's no belt flap on there, which is looking good. Can still hear a slight exhaust leak. Oh yeah, actually there's quite an exhaust leak coming from up there. So my repair on the joint up there hasn't worked properly. And yeah, that's what we can hear. We can hear the noise coming through, which is a bit of a shame. We do have the ABS light on, but I suspect, I do know that the brakes need bled and sorted out. Actually, the brakes aren't doing a lot. I'm pumping them there to get them the fluid going through, and they're not toughening up. So I think we need to work on the brakes a bit more. But with it running, it will help, because we can use the assisted braking, can't we, to get that sorted. So that's pretty good going. I think we'll turn that off now. I don't want to run it any longer than it needs to at the moment, just until we solve those other couple of problems. Well, I'm not sure whether that's a success or not. Made a little bit of progress. At least we know that the fuel filter and the couplings are all working great. We've got the car started, and it's still running really nicely. Actually, we have spotted that still that bit of a problem with the exhaust. We know that the CEM replacement has worked. That's the main electrics now working. Just a few bulbs to buy, and then that's solved. I think the next thing is I need to get the front windscreen replaced and the brakes all bled. And I think that's time for another video. I hope you've enjoyed this. We are so close now to getting the Volvo back on the road. It's great news. Hopefully we're going to be able to do that, and I'm going to take you along with that. Do hope you enjoy this this series of videos. Pop a like and a comment down the bottom. A like really helps the channel out, so just a little thumbs up and it really helps out, and I'll see you in the next video.